you know, if you build a foundation, then you have that structure in place to get the results you're looking for. So as I said, my aim is that this presentation will give you an outline as to what those foundations are, what you should put in place that will help you then get the results you're looking for from your marketing. So I'll dip in with you every now and then as Brian said, we'll have a Q&A session at the end. So I'm going to share my screen. There we go. So by way of a quick introduction then, Lisa McPhillips is my name. The name of my business is Dynamic Marketing. I have over 20 years experience in marketing. I cut my teeth with ESAT Telecom back in the 90s. So I've worked with high growth startups such as ESAT and Digicel down in the Caribbean. And I've also worked with Fortune 500s such as Dell and JP Morgan. And now with Dynamic Marketing, I work with small business owners to help them achieve more sales with better marketing. And that's what I'm here to share with you today. So before I begin, I'm going to throw out there, what is marketing? Now, there's no right or wrong answer here. If you want to pop into the chat, you know, when you hear the term marketing, what do you think of? What jumps to mind for you?
Advertising.
Advertising, yeah, absolutely, Lisa. Yeah. Anything else? Anything else? What do people think?
Selling your company.
Yeah, okay, great. Yeah. Finding customers, brilliant. Yeah.
Company image.
Yeah, promote, yeah, absolutely. And as I said, there's no right and wrong answer here, right? Marketing encompasses so much. If we look to Philip Kotler, who some believe to be the father of marketing, he's still alive, bless him. He's in his 90s at the moment. But back in the 60s, he advocated that marketing actually has a role in the greater economics, that purchasing decisions aren't only made on price, they're also made on advertising, as was said there, on the different stages of the journey that people take, on the sales channel that's used to promote products. So it's really not just price that drives sales. And he said that, I'm just going to close this here. He says that the science and art of exploring, creating and delivering value to satisfy the needs of a target market at a profit. Marketing identifies unfulfilled needs and desires. It defines, measures and quantifies the size of the identified market and the profit potential. So there's an awful lot in that. But my key takeaways from this are to identify your target audience and to know what they're looking for. At the end of the day, your marketing isn't about you. It's about your clients. It's about your customers. It's about providing them with a solution to their problem and then providing it for them at a price that works for them. And the main thing to keep in mind is that one size does not fit all when it comes to marketing. And I'm just going to stop sharing there one quick second so I can see you all again. To bring to life to you, I suppose, the real learning I had that one size does not fit all. As I said to you, I cut my teeth on marketing back in the 90s with ESAT Telecom. And when Dennis O'Brien sold ESAT and we were getting ready to go down to start off Digicel, we were all sitting around the table in Dublin and we were trying to brainstorm, well, what's our value proposition going to be? And we looked at the successes that we had in Ireland. So, you know, for any of you who remember mobile phones back in the 90s, we were all furiously texting on our Nokias. And this was even before predictive text came into being. So do you remember you had to hit the button 3 times to get a C and everything? It was all a lot more complicated than it is now. So we thought, well, look, it worked here. Absolutely. Let's roll with that down into the Caribbean. So we headed off to Jamaica, all ready to promote texting. But when we got down there, we found out that illiteracy rates were huge. So if people can't read or write, they're not going to be interested in texting. However, because of the layout of the island of Jamaica, there's a huge, big rainforest right in the middle. Coverage was a huge issue. So if you wanted to talk to people to the right or left of you, it was fine. But if you wanted to talk to people over the other side of the island, you basically couldn't get through. There was also an issue about security. And a lot of your telephone calls would be interrupted with cross lines, etc. So that really brought to life for us that, although we had these preconceived ideas as to what we felt people wanted, when we actually looked at the target audience, they wanted something completely different. And I would encourage you to make sure that you do that. And we're certainly going to talk about that later on in this presentation, because as I said, one size does not fit all. So I'll go back again now, and we can continue on. So the next thing I'd like to share with you is the buyer's journey. Now, again, it's important that you're aware of the buyer's journey, because if you go looking for a sale too early on, if you're new to the market, people don't know who you are, people haven't trust in you, and you're asking them for a sale straight away, they may be a little bit, uneasy about it. You may not get that sale. Equally, if you keep telling people, keep promoting yourself, but never asking for the sale, well, you could be missing a trick. So it's important that you understand how the buyer's journey goes. Now, it's also worth keeping in mind, of course, that digital marketing can advance this buyer's journey very quickly. And it will depend. There are slight nuances between whether you're a B2C or a B2B. But overall, it's the same kind of flow. And as we go through it here, it'll probably make sense to yourself as you think about, if you are buying something. So first of all, a customer needs to be aware that they have a problem. They may not realize that they have a problem. All of a sudden, they're like, oh my gosh, right, I need something. How am I going to find out what's out there? They evaluate what's on offer. We'd all like to be the only ones offering whatever it is, our products or services, but there are competitors out there. So the buyer is going to take a look and see, okay, what suits my needs. Then they're going to make a decision. And that decision may be based on, as we saw there, it could be price, it could be how you're promoting yourself, it could be based on, how you're responding to the needs of the buyer. Hopefully, then you'll be able to retain the customer. And the best thing of all, of course, is as businesses, we all want our customers and our clients to advocate for us. We want them to recommend us, because that peer-to-peer recommendation goes an awful long way. So if we look at how that might actually translate into a real life situation, and I'll stop share here again with you for a little bit. So I love to go for my walks, and I live in Wicklow Town. Now, if any of you know Wicklow Town, there are hills everywhere you go. So sometimes my poor old knees get a little bit sore from plodding the tarmac. So after one of my walks, anyway, I came home and my knees were really sore. So, of course, what do? I check in with Dr. Google. And I found out that it could have actually been my trainers that were causing the problems in my knees. Maybe I didn't have enough support. So my next Google was, right, how can I, where do I get proper runners? What does a proper runner look like? Who has them? So I went Googling for, runners for walkers, and 2 sites came up. One website had every type of runner I could possibly want, loads of colors, really, gorgeous looking. Prices were, within my budget. The second one, however, spoke immediately about what was needed for walking, how you would need a reinforced soles to get support in your ankles, which of course would help your knees and potentially help against back pain as well. So I had a look, and the prices were a little bit more than what I wanted to spend, but this site was giving me a solution to my problem. It was talking my language. It was saying to me, you have a problem here, we've got a solution for you. So I went through, I read some of the testimonies. Everybody seemed very, very happy with the products they were getting. So I thought, you know what, I'll take the chance. It's a bit above my budget, but it's worth it. I'm going to take that chance. So I went through the checkout process. All the fees were up front. They told me when I could expect my delivery. So that was all lovely. Checked out. That was fine. And true as they said, my delivery came when it was due. packed nicely. And there was a lovely little thank you card in there. Thank you for your business. And we'd love to see you back again. And here's, you know, a discount off the next time you come shopping with us. So that really gave me a good feeling. I felt loved as a client and as a customer. I went out on my walks. My buddies were all saying, how are the knees? How are you doing? I said, listen, brilliant new runners. They're great. I began advocating. So if we go back again then to our presentation, and we look at how that actually, if we keep that story in mind and we bring through the different buyers' journey. I had a pain in my knees, right? What did I do? I went Googling, right? And I found out what's out there. I saw the two different websites that was available. I made my evaluation. As you remember there, did I want price or did I want somebody who was actually going to solve my problem? I had a look around the website, you know, it was over my budget, but the testimonies were there. I could see peer-to-peer recommendations and it was worth my investment. And then, as I said, I got that nice little card. Please come back to us again. Thank you for your business. It encouraged me to maybe go back again and make future purchases. So all in all, the experience was very good. And I became an advocate for the shop involved, and I started spreading the news to my friends. So you can see how I went through the different stages of the journey. So now we're going to, keeping all that in mind, we're going to kickstart the whole, what you need to do to set up your marketing. And I've split it into 3 different sections: knowing who you are, knowing your goals and objectives, and then once you know where you are and where you want to be, building the bridge between the two. So let's kick off straight away with knowing who you are. Now, I know this may seem a bit silly and you're sitting there going, of course I know who I am. Well, you know, I've set up my business. But it's worthwhile taking the time to really have a think about, you know, why are you in business? Nowadays, storytelling is becoming such a fundamental part of marketing, especially in a competitive market. You want to build a connection with your buyers. You want them to know who they are buying from. You want them to build trust. And the best way to do that is to just, you know, outline who you are. So have a think about, you know, why are you in business? Why did you set up the business in the first place? Is it that you saw a gap in the market? Is it that you felt you could do something better than what's there already? Is it that you wanted to do something maybe at a better price? Don't be afraid of that. I mean, you know, we can look at pennies, right? The ultimate in cheap success. They're a wonderful success story. So if that's your value proposition, go to market with it, absolutely. Then take a look at who wants to buy from you. This is your target persona, your buyer persona, you may have heard out is another way to another name given to it. And it's really who is going to benefit from what you can provide. And it's important to know this again, because as I was saying in the buyer's journey, you want to understand what their pain points are. So take a look at their demographics, where they live, their disposable income, where they might be. Where can you find these people? You know, not only on social media, but where else might you find them? And that will help you when it comes to when it comes to your tactics and actually creating a marketing plan. At least you've got an idea of, okay, this is the person I'm aiming to get to, and these are all the different places that they could be. So how can I get there? How can I get in front of them? And of course, who are your competitors? You know, we all have competitors. They keep us on our toes. So it's very important to understand what your competitors are saying. What are they offering to the marketplace? And how do you differ? And that will help you build up your messaging as well. So from there then, an exercise you might like to do is a SWOT analysis. Now, for anybody who doesn't know what a SWOT analysis is as you can see there, it's a little formulas in 4 little blocks. It's your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats. And the idea is that your strengths will outweigh your weaknesses and your opportunities will mitigate against your threats. And what I would encourage you to do is, be very strict on yourself when you're doing your SWOT analysis, because it's easy as business owners to think, oh yeah, everything's fine, it's brilliant, but all of us have strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And if you have identified them, well, then you're better equipped to deal with them. So, your strengths, what do you do well? What unique resource can be drawn on? Is it your knowledge? Are you a knowledge expert in the specific area you're in? Again, is it that there's a gap in the market and you are you're the one providing what is needed? What strengths can you draw on? What weaknesses? As a sole trader, for example, a big weakness I would have, especially in the times we're living in, is if I'm struck with COVID, well, my business, there's nobody to carry on while I'm out. Resources could be a weakness now at the moment. Then have a look at your opportunities. Is there a gap in the market that you can fill? Is there an area that maybe another supplier is missing out on that you can actually get as your own and own that topic? What threats are there? Maybe if you are new into the marketplace, if the incumbent is very experienced and has lots of budget, they might be able to kind of outdo you in the marketing side of things. So again, knowing where you are and all these different areas will allow you to build up your messaging, will allow you to be able to deal with maybe objections that potential customers might have to buying from you. And by having that knowledge, and by you can build up messaging to actually almost answer the question before it's asked and then just knocking it dead. So from there then, the next step is to develop your value proposition. Now, a value proposition is an easy to understand way of explaining to your clients why they should buy from you. It's not your tagline though. Your tagline, as we'll take a look at now in a few minutes, might be something quirky. But your value prop is really, why am I here? What value am I bringing? And there's many different formulas to create one, but I kind of like to think of it as I'm doing something so that you can. I'm delivering something so that you can. And if you can show the value that you're giving to your potential client, you're making them feel, oh gosh, yes, absolutely. I need to have this. This is going to make my life easier. This is going to make me feel better. This is going to give me more time. Think about what's the value? How will your client feel after they've purchased from you? So looking at a few, we all know Nike, right? So we know the famous tick and we know that their tagline is just do it. Their value proposition, however, is to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. Equally, FedEx, the world on time, and their value prop is when it absolutely positively has to be there overnight. So it pretty much says what it does on the tin, right? And then when we look at Apple, now think different, which I love. Their value prop is a little bit wordy. I think they could probably do with summarizing that somewhat. But you can see here that where the tagline is that gimmicky, it's something that gets out very quickly. The value proposition is more the reason why me. And as I said before, when you're coming up with your value proposition, always keep your target audience in mind. Again, it's not about you as a business. It's about your audience. It's about your buyer. It's about solving a problem for them. So I'll just stop there for 2 minutes. Are we okay with everything? Am I keeping everybody engaged? Are you all following me? Yeah, okay. Perfect. Thanks for that. Okay, so we'll go back again now. And the next thing we're going to look at now is we are going to look at step 2, which is knowing your goals and objectives. Now, this is very important, and it's often a step that businesses skip. Knowing your goals will allow you to see what marketing makes sense for you to achieve what you're looking to achieve. So what do I mean by that? If your goals are specific If they're measurable, they're achievable, they're realistic, they're time-based. SMART goals, you might be familiar with the phrase. So let's see what that might look like. Specific. So let's say I want to increase my revenues. So this year, my target revenue is 100 grand, and I want that by the end of the year. That's specific. Measurable. How am I going to measure that? How do I measure sales? Is it footfall into my store? Is it online sales? Is it a combination of both? Have I measurables in place that I can actually ascertain that I am achieving what I'm looking to achieve? Which brings us then to, are my goals achievable? Again, we spoke about potential staffing issues, resourcing issues. So is it really something that I can do? Can I achieve this revenue in the time frame I'm looking for? Again, realistic is the same thing. If I'm new to the market, or if my last year's revenues were 10 grand, is it really realistic for me to think I'm going to be up at 100 grand by a year later? You know, and keeping your goals realistic means that you're going to be able to see progress. Whereas if you try and take on too much in too short of a period of time, you know, if you won't really get the results you're looking for, which of course not only affects the budgets being spent, but it also, you know, isn't very encouraging. And then having your goals time-based as well. As I said, right, it's my goal by the end of the year, so I know exactly what I need to achieve and by when. Your objectives then will help you achieve your goals. So again, if I'm looking at my 100K revenue by the end of this year, how does that look like? And this is very much where your sales cycle will come into play. So maybe your sales cycle is very much front-ended, and you might actually do 75K's worth of revenue maybe in the first 2 quarters, and then the second 2 quarters are the final amount. Or maybe it's spread quarter on quarter. But knowing your objectives as well will allow you to plan. So let's say, for example, if your year is front-ended, well, there's no point in starting your tactics and your marketing in January. You want to do it maybe November, December. So you're warming up the market. So when they hit you in January, they're ready to buy. Again, remember the buyer's journey. You don't want to look for a sale too early on. You want to make sure they know about you. They've gone through, they can see who else is out there, and they've made the decision. So you want to guide buyers around that so that they're ready to buy. Other areas you might want to look at then is, you know, how many queries do you need to get in to get a sale, a conversion? And again, this is where your sales funnel will come into be. So you're thinking, okay, I'm going to make 25K in sales by the end of Q1. How many leads do you need to get in? How do they filter? How do those leads filter down through your sales cycle? Because again, you know, with the best will in the world, and depending on the product and service you're selling, people aren't going to go on and buy immediately. They're going to kind of want to have a look around and see. So, you know, to make that 25K, do you actually need 100 leads in? Do you need 200 leads in? What's your conversion rate? And having all those objectives in place will help you to understand when you need to start your marketing and what kind of marketing you need. So where we're going to go then, so we've had a look at, we know who we are, we know what we're doing, how we're positioning ourselves in the market, we've done our competitive analysis, we know what our proposition is to the market, we know what our goals and objectives are, we know what we need to achieve and by when. So we know where we are, we know where we want to go to, right? Because we've identified our goals. So the next thing is to make that bridge, right? How do we get there? And this is where your tactics will come into play. So what kind of tactics do you look for? And again, you know, I'm going to bring you back to the buyer's journey again. How are you going to build awareness? This could be through your website. Is it easy to find? What's your SEO like? Are you doing advertising? Are Google ads or social media ads relevant for you in your business? Is that where your target audience is? Remember, that's why we did the whole insight into who our target audience is, so that we would know where we can find them. So again, there's no point in spending time and money and effort maybe being on Facebook if you're predominantly B2B and all your audience is on LinkedIn. So again, this is where the target audience comes into play. You're also going to look, your messaging will come in here. What's your message to these people? What action do you want them to take? And that'll all be part of your tactical plan. I would also encourage you to look at traditional marketing. You know, PR plays a very important role in promoting businesses. And it's often an area that businesses are a little bit slow to embrace. But certainly I worked with a client there before Christmas. She was launching a new service to the market. It was an online service. And by encouraging her to do PR and to work with a PR expert, she got absolutely colossal exposure, which meant she got queries in, which meant she could convert them to sales. She had revenue coming in that she could then reinvest into other methods of marketing. Because at the end of the day, you need to get revenues in, right? That's what marketing is all about. It's about bringing the sales to your door and getting that revenue in. So you have to find the tactics that work correctly for you. So as I said, you know, absolutely digital marketing is key nowadays. Social media is very, very important. Like it or loathe it, it is. You know, you have to be out there and have your message heard. But also think about other areas, you know, maybe client appreciation events, which would allow you to upsell and to cross-sell your products and services. PR, we spoke about sponsorships. Now that we're getting back to real life, are there sponsorships you can get involved in? Are there trade shows would make sense for you to attend? So really, you know, try not to kind of take a tunneled approach. Again, looking back on who you want to sell to and looking at your goals and objectives, then see what makes sense for you. Analysis is key. You have to be able to see your measurables. How are you going to measure the success? How are you going to measure what you have achieved? And this could be through many different platforms. So for example, if you are selling online, your Google Analytics will be very important here. Or it could be that if you're, as I said, doing an event with cross sales, you know, how many cross sales were you able to bring in? Your retention analysis, how many clients were you able to retain over a period of time? If you can take a look, you know, periodically and stop and say, okay, these were my goals and objectives. And yes, whatever I decided to do, whatever initiative I put in place did actually deliver. Well, then that's encouraging, right? And you might look to spend a little bit more, or you might look to reinvest in different ways, but analysis is key. And then of course, agility. If there's one thing we saw this year, over the last 2 years, in fact, it's that we have to be agile. Markets change very quickly. And again, you know, this comes back again to the target audience we were looking at. If we look at, you know, your target audience's needs 2 years ago versus now, have they changed? The likelihood is probably. Equally, if you as a business have pivoted, again, you know, your target audience has changed. So your marketing needs to be agile enough to make that change and to go with you and to always support you. Marketing isn't something that you can just do and put up on a shelf and leave it there. It needs to constantly be tweaked. So I would encourage you to always check in, see what's working, and make whatever tweaks are needed. So if we take all that we've learned then over the last few slides, as I said, we've looked at the target audience, we've looked at the sales proposition, we know our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, we know our goals and objectives. We have an idea of the tactics that we want to put in place. So we have all these great ideas in our heads. So now let's take it back to the buyer's journey and see how those tactics can actually play a part. So awareness. How can we make our clients, our customers, aware of it could even be that you need to make them aware of a problem they have. Maybe they don't realize they have a problem. And it's only by you actually asking a question, is this something that you find a problem? Or have you ever experienced this? That they start going, gosh, yes, I do, I need you. And touch points here could be social media, could be the advertising, could be your search engine optimization. Your website is a great resource. And I really would encourage those, especially those who have put money into building out their websites with the Trading Online voucher over the last few years. Keep checking in with your website. Make sure your SEO is up to date, your keywords, make sure people can find you. If advertising is something that is appropriate for you, be it Google Ads or social media, that's another way to make buyers aware of you. Retargeting, what that is that if somebody comes onto your website, you can retarget them through Facebook or through Google Ads so that they will continue to see your ads. And that might be something for you to take a look at, because you know yourself, you're kind of like, oh gosh, I must have a look for something. And you go on, you see a website, and you're like, oh, that's brilliant. And then you get a phone call or there's somebody at the hall door and you leave it. Again, if you just get that little prompt back, then it kind of brings me back to, yes, I need to check that out. And I can come back again to the website. PR is another great area that we spoke about, and really one I would encourage you all to consider. So then we're on to the next stage, evaluation, right? So I'm on the website and I'm like, right, is this really what I'm looking for? This is where your testimonies will come into play. Your blogs are a great way of showing that you know what you're talking about. You're an expert in your field. You're a knowledge expert. So make sure you can get across. If we think back to the story I said about, my trainers, I went on and did I want fashion trainers in 25 different colors, or did I want trainers that were actually going to help my knees? So make sure, again, that's where your website comes in. Decision, again, your user experience, especially if you're selling online, make sure all costs are up front. There's nothing hidden. Make sure your payment is as easy as possible. If there's going to be a delay in delivery, just get it out there. Say it up front. Make sure the whole user experience is good. If you are, again, selling online, can buyers search for a specific stock, rather than have to kind of troll down through it themselves? So that whole user experience. Then the retention. Now, retention is an area that a lot of businesses, I find, don't pay a lot of attention on. They put an awful lot of effort and work into earning new clients. But you know what? It's a lot cheaper to sell to people you've sold to already. So what are you doing to retain your clients? And this could be customer appreciation events. It could be reward schemes. It could be sharing your knowledge. Again, depending if you're B2B and B2C, giving them tips. Maybe you heard an article on the radio and you want to address it. For example, I'm working with a client at the moment who deals in pensions, and there was an awful lot of chat last week, the week before, about pensions, and he was able to piggyback on that and do a newsletter to his clients, giving them tips, explaining terms. You're keeping them in the loop, you're keeping them warm. And then, of course, as we said before, the best thing you can have is your clients advocating for you, selling for you. It doesn't matter how much you put into your marketing. Whatever your clients say outward to their group and to their cohort will always be an awful lot more valuable. So how can you encourage this? You might have a referral program, or how can you make sure that they are always advocate for you? So if we look back then as, what makes up the foundations of good marketing? It's knowing who you are. It's knowing why you're in the marketplace. It's knowing what problem are you solving for your clients. It's knowing who you're talking to and where you fit in the competitive analysis. It's knowing your goals and objectives. What are your goals for the year, and how do they break down quarter by quarter, month by month, whatever makes sense for you? And then how do you get from where you are to where you want to be? What's that bridge? And there are your tactics. And again, your tactics will align up to your goals and objectives. So as I spoke about, If you want to hit the ground running on January 1, that's not when you start your marketing. You start your marketing like November, December time. So it's, keep that in mind as you're building out your marketing plan. And what I would say to you as well is don't be afraid to ask for help. There's an awful lot of help out there. The chambers have great mentoring, the local Leos. People are around, people are there who can help. Ask for help. Again, money can be spent very quickly on marketing. And all too often I hear people say that they've spent hundreds on a Google Ads campaign that they didn't get one call from or one sale from. Don't make that mistake. Talk to somebody, get the advice so that you're spending your money in the right way, in the way that makes sense for your business and will deliver for your business. And I leave you with this quote: a river cuts through rock, not because of its power, but because of its persistence. So as small business owners, we all know we have to be persistent. And the same goes for your marketing. It's not something, as I said, that you put a couple of bob into, set it off in motion and leave it on a shelf for a few years. You need to constantly check in with it. The markets are changing, your clients are changing, your position in the market is changing. So you need to constantly look in with it and make sure that what you're doing is delivering and that your investment is working for you. And that is what I have for you today. So I hope you found that useful.
Thank you very much, Lisa. It was quite interesting, and I think it is, knowing who you are is a key point to it. And even not just knowing who you are as in what your business is, but the people in the businesses is so important. And it was just, I was thinking about it because over the last week and 2 weeks, I've been working with a member on a particular challenge, and this service support that they needed. And we were looking up, we came across one or two, I suppose, companies that said they could deliver it. But one company that is lovely website, and it had all this lovely text that suited everything, loads of stock photographs, but the kind of service that we're looking for, you need to understand that the people know what they're talking about. There was absolutely no mention on the website of actually who the person is behind it or what their expertise is. And I know that it's through some of the websites, businesses here, like you go onto Tom's or you go onto Carol Toolmaking or even Simply Work For, you see those people into it. And that kind of helps, I think, to reach out to the customers. I think it's quite an important one. It fits
You're
very well
so right. Yeah, you're so right, Brian. And especially I take myself right in my line of work. There are thousands and thousands of marketing consultants. So, what makes me different? What makes me different is my experiences and my approach to doing business and who I am. Now that'll suit some people and it won't suit other people, and that's fine. That's the free market. But if I were to just kind of say, oh, well, yeah, I'm a great marketeer and you really need me, it doesn't really give people, the insights into why I'm here. Why did I start my business in the first place? So I would totally agree with you. And as I said, storytelling is becoming so much more important now. Really helping your clients to make a bond with you, to trust you, to build trust in you, to go, you know what, yeah, maybe you are a little bit more expensive, but you know what, you got this because you're talking my language. So yeah, I would totally agree.
Excellent. And any questions there from anybody on the floor?
Plenty of homework to do. Yeah, I suppose the challenge is, I suppose, is to try and keep everything online as kind of an extension of, yourself and your business and what you're already doing offline. I suppose really, it's kind of just an extension really of what you're doing within your own four walls, is to get that across and to get the ethos across, or that type of thing.
Absolutely, Tom. And video is a great way to do it. And I know for a lot of people it's cringe, no, I couldn't go in front of a video. But again, it's a great way to show, well, this is me, this is who you're dealing with, this is my approach to doing business. But I would also encourage you to look at, especially, is your particular website another sales channel for you?
Primarily a brochure website, but loaded with a lot of information that we use quite a lot. We use it as a reference, so we quite often end up on the phone talking to someone, and they're on one end looking at, we're leading them through the website, that type of thing. That it opens discussions, let's say.
Brilliant.
On actual sales.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
Lisa, sorry, just to make here.
Hello, Mike.
That was brilliant. Thank you very much. We're in the middle of getting implementing the digitization, the Enterprise Ireland digitization voucher. But just one of the things that you mentioned there, which again, I think it's a lesson to us all. We get caught up sometimes in our own businesses and how we think our functionality is, and etc. But the real lesson that I'm getting coming back at me the whole time now is, okay, what are the customers looking for? And you've got to get outside your own little bubble about, we're great, we do this and that and the other. Okay, and here's what we do well, but it's what can you do for the customer? And that in marketing, that to me, that is now everything, and it will be everything for us going forward. What are the benefits? How am I going to help the customer? And I think that's a great lesson, and you brought that out there as well. So
yeah, thank you, Mick. Yeah, you're so right. You're so right. You're off to a great start if your mindset is like that, because again, if you, as businesses, we all think we're the best, right? But the best means nothing. What is the best? What's the best for me may not be the best for Bob, may not be the best for Mary. So if you know who you're talking to, and you know what challenges you have, or the buyers have, then you can respond to those challenges, and that will make you the best, because you're responding to a need. So absolutely, I would say stick with it, Mick. That's a great start.
I think it's kind of like one of those things. You mentioned Apple, and I think when you think back to Apple when they first started, nobody knew they needed an iPhone or thought they needed an iPhone. Nobody knew what an iPhone was, and suddenly Apple came out, and then half the world or more has iPhones.
Yeah.
So it was, I suppose, getting that need out there and nearly creating that message in the market that kind of tied into it.
Absolutely, Brian. And in a lot of instances as well, as I was saying there earlier on, it could be that your buyer doesn't actually realize they have a problem. We all get kind of inertia, and we all get into, the day-to-day doings of things. And just because you've always done things in one way doesn't mean it's the best way to do it. So, some great tools are in marketing, in your messaging, are just asking a question. Is this a problem for you? Plant the seed and get me thinking, gosh, it actually is a problem for me. And voila, here's the solution, so yeah, you're right.
I think another part of it is that every time you answer the phone or you send an email, you're actually marketing, and you don't understand, you don't realize it. But marketing all it is really is educating your customer. That's, you're just encouraging them to keep coming back to you, or to use sharing information with them. And with people who say, I know we don't have any marketing, but every time you answer the phone, you're actually, you are, there's people being marketing for years and didn't realize it.
Didn't realize it, indeed. And then, your staff as well market for you all the time. They're in the pub on it, well, hopefully anyway, they're all getting back to it, or in the coffee shops or whatever, and they're advocating for you. They're like, oh my gosh, wait till I tell you what we're doing. Or, if somebody goes, God, I need to find somebody who can do that. Oh, listen, we can help you with that, So again, encourage it. It's a family thing. It's not that one person is the marketeer. It's exactly as you said, Pat. It's the whole organization. Can I throw out? Has anybody got any specific challenges? Has anybody, you know, areas of have they tried an initiative that hasn't worked for them and they weren't sure why? Or, you know, are there any specifics anybody would like to share with the group?
Again, I think it's what you said earlier on. It's very important that if you're doing something for Christmas, that you do it, you know, you don't do it at the wrong time, or you're doing something for September, you know, that you're doing it in June, July, or August, getting ready for September. That you can advertise. It's, you know, it's not just all about going out, oh, because I advertise, people will remember. You actually target your times. Like I remember a particular time, and there was kind of 2 times in the year. There was September and January. That was the specific thing that happened. But because marketing was the thing to be done, and it was done in January or February, and it just wasn't. It was no good. Nothing came out of it.
Yeah.
If you done a tenth of it in August, you got the result in September.
No, and then that's where, you know, as I did that section on the goals and objectives. That's why it's important that you kind of take a little while and get all those, you know, things in your head before you pull the trigger on spend, because, you know, at the end of the day, exactly, Pat, you know, you want to make sure whatever you're doing, whatever you're investing in, is going to give you the return. And that return could be different. It could be awareness. It could be sales. You know, it could be, again, when we spoke about the sales funnel, you know, how many queries do you need to get in to get that end converted sale? So if you know ahead of time what it is you want to achieve, and again, because you have your goal, you know when you need to achieve it by, then that puts you in a better position to decide, right, I need to do, you know, a lot of marketing, as you said there in your example, I need to do a lot of marketing in 2 months of the year, and then I can kind of take my foot off the pedal, or, you know, just kind of keep a little bit going to keep the awareness there, or do I spread it out month by month? So yeah, definitely.
Thank you very much. I think we've covered an awful lot there, and I think, you know, it's quite key, because when you look at it, marketing has changed so much, and there's been so many new tools added over the last 10, 15 years with, you know, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, everything. And even they've changed so much over the years, like, yeah, search engine optimization, or as everybody knows, that SEO has changed so much, you know, and you could sink a lot of money into it with zero return, and I think it's so important, probably, you know, from what you're saying, to just take that time to really look at it and to work out which are the right channels for you, where your potential customers are, and making sure you're getting the messaging out to them.
Absolutely. And, you know, it can be very daunting, you know, as you said there, all the social media channels. And I come across a lot of businesses who spend so much time trying to manage 6 or 7 channels, when really their audience might only be on one. So it is worth that. It is worth the while, again, just to kind of see, right, what makes sense for my client? Where are my clients? What makes sense for my business?
I suppose the thing on digital marketing, as distinct from other marketing, I suppose traditionally, you know, if you spent money on other media like the newspaper media or radio, it was, from us anyway, it was always very hard to measure. Whereas if you spend on digital, it's a lot more measurable. You know, you can spend small amounts and get a result, but you can measure it. You can see what's working, and you can change it. And, you know, before, if you made an ad and it went on air and it said, oh, you know, that's wrong or whatever, well, tough, you couldn't do much about it. You don't have to run its course. Whereas now you can tweak things and whatever, you know. So
Indeed.
yes, there are an awful lot of channels, and it's a lot more complicated, but you know, it may be more controllable, and, you know, probably we should be able to get better result from it. You know, it should. I suppose you'd like it to be more of a, what would you say, an investment rather than a cost, you know?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, Tom. I mean, your marketing should be an investment, no more so than any other area of the business that you invest in. And that's why, you know, my focus is always very much on the return on that investment, because I wouldn't like anybody to just put budget into an initiative and just go, Asher, you know, you need to do that. So just, you know, suck it up, kind of put in the money. There should always be a way. And you know, I hear what you're saying about radio and everything as well. But again, you know, I've worked with a client. He came to me a few years ago, and he is in a DIY store. He owns his own DIY store, and he was very frustrated that he felt people really didn't know what he sold. You know, he thought everybody knew. But when it came down to it, you know, he'd be hearing people, and they'd be like, "Oh, you know, I need to go head off this place and, you know, to Woody's and get some paint or something." And he's like, "Why aren't you coming to my store? I'm down the corner." And, "Oh, do you sell paint?" You know, so I put together a series of radio adverts for him that have been running now for about 2.5 years, literally just, you know, to educate the market on this. These are all the different products and services that I sell in my store. And we kind of made it a little bit quirky, you know, so it'd be a bit memorable as well. And he was able to actually measure the impact that it had on his footfall. And he said, you know, it went up by over, I think he quoted 11-12%, you know, in the period the ads were running. So you're right, I suppose, you know, you don't have the Google Analytics kind of side of things, but again, you know, when you're doing advertising, again, depending on what's available to you, you might put a specific number on an ad so that you can measure calls into it. Or again, if you're doing PR, you know, you can gauge, right, in that period of time that I'm getting this exposure, how have inquiries, you know, changed, where has the dial moved? So but yes, I suppose, you know, when you're looking at actual numbers on a page, the digital marketing is great for that.